What's going on, everybody? My name is Ben and welcome back to the bench, guys, for another episode of our 12 Sprues of Kit-mas holiday build series. Today we are moving on with build day number 5, and I for one am very excited to see what we're going to pull out of that box. So far I've been having a lot of fun with all the builds we've been doing. Last episode was actually a lot of fun. It was an F20 we made into a desktop model for my office display. So I'm pretty excited about this next build. Let's go ahead and see what day 5 holds for us. As you can see, the first 4 are completed. We're moving on to the second group of 4 right here, day number 5. Let's poke on through there and, well, I'm hoping we get something just as easy as the last model we built. So reach on in there, kind of fish around a little bit. Okay, and oh, there it is. Okay, got the label. Let's go ahead and pull that on out and we'll check it out. Oh, okay. Here we go, guys. The Revell Fokker D7. Okay, that's going to be interesting. Go ahead and grab that kit and check it out. Now, from what I understand, this is a very old model kit. Molds are just a little bit on the older side. So that's not going to be as clean, crisp. It's going to have overemphasized details and probably lacking a lot of internal details. So like cockpit's probably non-existent, engine's probably non-existent, a lot of things that probably just aren't here in the kit. Now the parts themselves look to be kind of messy. We need to have a lot of cleanup, filing, sanding, all that good stuff. So that's going to have to be done. We have one instruction manual, just a single page that folds out. We have one sheet of decals, and we have, well, it looks like a sheet of just warnings and all that sort of stuff, legal jargon and whatnot. Here in the instructions, we have one page of that instructions that just seems to be all the actual assembly. Then we have center section with all of the decals, paint schemes and all that. Parts themselves do need a lot of cleanup. We have some ejector pin marks on the undersurface of the wings, as well as the upper surface of the lower wing. Looks like we need to go in and clean up a lot of the struts, a lot of the supports, a lot of work, a lot of cleanup. They look a little oversized. We have a lot of the ribbing detail way overemphasized. So might want to go ahead and sand it down just a little bit to maybe minimize it slightly. Yeah, this isn't necessarily the greatest kit out there. Cockpit is basically non-existent. We have one little platform in there that we just drop a seated pilot right on the inside. We're going to change that. Not much detail to really speak of. We kind of expected it. It is a Revell kit. I've built other Revell kits in this scale for World War I, and they are just as simple. They're just meant for a real quick model, so nothing too fancy. Now, taking a quick look at the decals, guys, this is where it starts getting kind of weird because we're given, these odd looking lozenge pattern stencils, but they're not really stencils. They're decals. They actually expect you to paint each of these lozenge pattern pieces. Let me zoom in here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. You can see here that they have the colors called out for each individual lozenge. We have to do that for every single undersurface of the wings, the tails, and the little landing gear structure right there. Every single flying surface has to be decaled and then painted. I don't like the sound of that at all. That is insanity, guys. Can you imagine that? Also, we can look at some of these parts. You can see we got flash, we've got ejector pin marks, we've got really overemphasized ribbing detail. I don't think this kit warrants that type of work. Come in here, drop in each individual lozenge pattern camo and paint all those little details. That is insanity. I do not want to do that. So instead, we're going to have to think about that a little bit and try to figure out an alternate paint scheme. But first, we need to jump in that first time lapse. We're going to hit the construction, doing some basic cleanup, get those ejector pin marks removed, and just get this ball rolling, guys. So let's get on with it, see what we can do. right, everybody. So I've been doing a little bit of research off camera, and I think I have finally figured out what we want to do for our basic camo version here. I've actually been looking at this. Now, this is one of those, profiles that I found online, and it's for an early Fokker D7 that belonged to Carl Bohl of JG2. I guess he finished to over 36 victories, and he's got a really unique looking rear tail paint job. He's got white, black, white, yellow, white, black, and then a black and white cross there. So I think it actually is kind of cool looking, and I want to say that I can probably paint that. If I'm careful enough, I can make it happen. Now, in terms of decals though, guys, that's where it's going to be a little tricky because we can use the overall larger iron crosses for the wings, the tail, the undersurface of the wings as well. We will need to figure out what to do for the side iron cross on the fuselage because we don't have enough of those. So I'm going to have to look through the spares box, see if I can find anything that might work, and then we'll go from there. So on with that time lapse, guys. Let's go ahead and get that pale blue painted on there. Let's get some priming done with some white Staunerez primer. Let's get in there with the white, yellow, and black fuselage colors, do some masking, get this thing all painted up. Let's do it, guys. right along, everybody. It is time to go ahead and play around with some oil paints. Now, what I want to go ahead and try to do is I want to take some of my oil paints, so plant green, raw umber, yellow ochre. I want to mix up these different oil paints to create a somewhat olive / like green color. And then I want to take some brushes and I want to streak the rest of the aircraft. So the upper part of the wings, both the top and the lower wings, sides of the fuselage, top of the fuselage, along with the wheel hubs and the very top of the center section structure between the two wheels. That's going to be interesting. Now to make the color, I'm going to be using some plant green as kind of a base. Then I'll add in some raw umber. I'll add in some yellow ochre, mix them up until I have a color that I feel comfortable with. So I'm not going to go for perfection here, but I want something that looks cool. And it's going to give you the feeling of there being that color that they used. Very cool looking. So we're going to try this out here in 1/72nd scale, and we're going to attempt it. So if I remember correctly, the wings are going to be at a 45-degree angle. The fuselage is going to be straight up and down from top to bottom. And I want to say the top of the fuselage is going to be from left to right. Again, I'm not really sure. It could also be 45-degree angle. I don't remember, but this is such a small scale. I don't think it really matters. So let's go ahead and jump in here, and we're going to try it off camera, and I'll show you what we come up with. All right, here we go. And as you can see, we have the fuselage with our streaked camo and our different color paints in the back. You know what? It actually looks pretty cool. It's not perfect, mind you. I probably should have done even more streaking, and that might have looked a little bit better, but I think what we have here is good enough. And it was fun, so really can't complain. What I did is I took my brush, and for the wings, I went at a 45-degree angle. For the fuselage, I went straight up and down from top to bottom, and I pulled down that actual oil paint, giving it a cool looking streaked pattern. It's not perfect, mind you, but I think it's good enough to give you the impression. So I think we're going to go ahead and move on here. We have a lot more to do. We're going to have to jump in there, get the rest of the parts painted. I want to go ahead and start assembling the wings, getting that all together, getting the structural detail for the landing gears, get the tail assembled and all that good stuff. So we have lots to do. So I think we're going to jump in there and we're going to make this happen. Fingers crossed, guys, this works out perfectly. I like how it's looking so far. Let's push on. Let's get this thing looking like a D7. All right, so not bad at all. We have our top wing on, we have all of the supports installed, and we've gone back and kind of touched them up with some paint, making sure they look okay. We're also going to go ahead and install the propeller blade, and I did end up doing that wood grain finish on the propeller itself. That was a very simple procedure of just taking some Tamiya desert sand, overcoating the propeller itself, and then coming in with some red brown, streaking it to give it a little bit of wood grain, and then overcoating the entire thing with your basic Tamiya clear orange. That has given us a very cool looking wood grain finish. It's not perfect, but I think I'm happy with it. We still have quite a bit to do though, guys. For example, we need to come in here and I want to install the wheels. Once we get that set, we can go ahead and coat it with some Future, preparing for decals, decal the entire aircraft. I want to go ahead and do a little bit of rigging. Luckily for me, I don't really need to stretch a bunch of easy line all over the place. I just need to do a little bit here on the landing gear structure and on the tail. That's it. And then hit it with a semi-flat coat and call it a day. I think it's going to work out pretty decently, guys. I'm excited. Even for a very small, very simplistic, outdated kit, I'm having some fun with this one. Now, I will mention that the internal cockpit here on the D7 by Revell is empty. There's no detailing, there's no spars, no stringers, no seat. There's nothing in there. It's just a basic pilot molded into a seat. That's not great. I don't want there to be a pilot in here. I want there to be something to look at instead of just having just a giant gaping hole where a pilot or a cockpit should be. So what I did is I went through my spares box and I ended up finding a seat actually out of a German Focke-Wulf FW190 in 1/72nd scale. Went ahead and took it and I sanded it down and I recontoured it so it looks close enough to the chair that would be in a D7. It's got some discrepancies, sure, but again, such a small kit, you're not really going to notice it. I went ahead and put on some seat belts using Tamiya tape. And I'm just going to glue it down right on the inside where that ledge is, where the pilot would typically sit here in our kit. I think it's going to be nice. So now we're going to go ahead and kick over here to decals. And this is where these come into play. And these are your basic World War II low visibility German iron crosses. And they're white. So that actually should line up perfectly with the white in the tail and the white bands around the fuselage. Now granted, we're only going to be using like 6 of the decals here from the decal sheet. We're leaving alone all the lozenge pattern stencils. We're not touching those. We're just using the iron crosses. Then for the side fuselage, we're going to be using the World War II era white low visibility crosses. We'll go ahead and put those on where they would be in the picture and we'll hope for the best. So back into that time lapse, guys. Let's get the decals on. Let's do some top coat. Let's get that nice easy line going and then hit it with a semi-gloss coat and we'll be ready to go ahead and show you the finished product. Let's keep it going, guys. We're so close now. Okay, we are done, guys. I can't believe it. We've actually finished day number 5. Let me show you what we have for our Revell 1/72nd scale Fokker D7. What a fun kit, guys. Super simple, not necessarily the easiest assembling kit, but you know what? It's not that bad. I think we throw a little string on there, maybe around the top of the wing. We hang it on our tree. It's going to look great. I'm not worried about it in the slightest. Overall, I did have some complaints about the kit, such as the decals. Trying to come in here and paint each of these lozenge details, that would have been insane. I would not want to do that. Plus, I didn't have any of the colors either, so that's another deterrent. I think this is a much easier, much simpler type of paint job using that streaked pattern that they had in a lot of Fokker aircraft. I think that's really, really interesting. Giving you a close-up here, you can kind of see, well, hopefully you can see, I do have that streaking pattern across the wings and also the top to bottom streaking pattern on the fuselage. You can also see the seat that I went ahead and installed there, made from a 1/72nd scale Focke-Wulf seat as well. And of course we have our propeller where we did our wood grain, and that was so much fun. It's not perfect, but I like it. I think it looks pretty good. Now, of course, for the fuselage markings, as you can see here, we have our alternating white, black, and yellow stripes. We have our center section with our cross outline decals. The other side got a little bit funny, to be honest. They're not quite even where they should be. At 3 feet, you're not going to notice it. I don't see any reason to put this in the display case necessarily. I plan on just grabbing a string, throwing it around the top wing, and hanging it from my tree. So yeah, everything from paint to easy line. And again, not a lot of easy line, but I do have it in there, to our seat with our seat belts, our fun wood grain propeller. Nothing too crazy, but I had fun. I enjoyed it. I think it was a really good build. Day 5 is in the bag. We're going to move on next time to day number 6. This one wasn't as good as the last kit. The F-20 went together almost without even any effort. This one took a little bit of effort. And that paint scheme, it took a while to paint because I had to mask off different colors, create my own masks, my own measurements. The decals didn't quite work out evenly. It's kind of difficult to line them up so they match on both sides. I love the streaking pattern I did. Could have been even more though, to be honest, but I'm happy with it. I say we put this one on the tree and move on to day number 6. That's going to be fun, guys. So until our next episode, you know the drill. Go out there, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool. Happy holidays and season's greetings, and I'll see you back here on the next episode of the 12 Sprues of Kit-mas here on Ben Builds. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you soon.